Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. This episode, I'm going to take a look at something I just picked up because, as you all know, I just cannot resist the Eastern Front. We're going to unbox this one game in the group, Army Group South, which is actually part of a threesome here, so to speak. There's two other ones. There's Army Group North and Army Group Center. So they can be all played individually as an operational game if you want. And part of the, as you can see there, the Destroy All Monsters operational series. But I'm going to unbox the South one because in the last year or so I've really been interested in Army Group South. I think part of the reason is because it doesn't get much attention. I mean, one could argue that it's Army Group North. But at the same time, it also fascinates me because, you know, the bulk of the Soviet forces, and especially the bulk of the mechanized forces, were in the Ukraine because Stalin was convinced that that's where the Germans would strike, which is interesting when you think about it because that's basically what Hitler was arguing with his generals at one point when he's like, my generals don't understand economics and all the resources of the Ukraine region and the Donbass and all that. So I find that interesting that, you know, both dictators were kind of thinking along the same lines. So, again, you know, an argument for grand strategy, you know, versus just military strategy, etc., etc. But that's why I'm focusing on Army Group South here to unbox. And this is from Conflict Simulation Limited and designed by Ray Weiss. There's the back of the box. The Destroy DAMOS, Destroy All Monsters series. Basically, part of the reason I bought this is because this is a game that covers all of Army Group South in 140 counters. And if you're thinking to yourself, dang, Tim, that box looks small. Well, here's the old GDW box, one of the 120 series, only 20 more counters in Army Group South. So, and I have this one. I don't have 1941, which is the Barbarossa campaign. But I've enjoyed this, and this is quick, easy to set up, so yeah. And again, when you put all three games together, you know, the entire Barbarossa campaign in less than 500 counters, I am intrigued. So here we go. Whoa, carrying the shrink wrap. Alright. Let's see what we got here. Well, first out of the box, we've got our rule book. It is fairly flimsy paper. It's not going to be, it's not the same quality as, say, GMT or anything like that. Reminds me a little bit of Victory Point Games quality. Black and white there, but it's well formatted, well set up there, all the abbreviations and things and concepts before you even start, so you can reference it all in one spot. Basic, you know, nothing fancy here. This is pretty straightforward. I already read the rule book online. So, yep, again, excuse me, what you typically see, double column, format, you know, 11.0, 12.0, 9.0, etc., etc., etc. And then, of course, you also have here the series rules. So you have basically the standard rules. You know, this reminds you of some other games in the past from different companies, like Blue and Gray, say, for example, had the standard rules and they had the series rules. So, and yeah, okay, so that's pretty much straightforward. Okay, so that's a simple rule book with the colored front page. All right. Let's see what else is inside the box. Whoa. Well, we do get 3 red dice. Any bias there? Sorry. Now we got the map. So let's take a look at the map. The map paper is paper, but it is pretty nice. It's pretty sturdy. It's not like paper thin. It's not like, say, Cataclysm's map. The color scheme's pretty straightforward, but again, you don't have to necessarily be too busy with the color schemes. I'll be curious to see with the terrain effects charts exactly who's who here, because it's not on the map. But you got these red lines here, and then you got these dashed lines. I'm sure some of these are rail lines because rail lines are very important in this game. One of the things that intrigued me about it is, much like the old excuse me, much like the old Russian front, you have to convert the rail hexes as the Germans. So that's pretty cool. I like that because that's a logistical nightmare that they were definitely not prepared for, and it's not really simulated in a lot of games. So I like that. I think that's very cool when it comes down to it. And the map, you can see, covers all the way over to Rostov, which is cool. And Voronezh is way up here. So that's very cool for the southern area there. So it's a nice looking map. It's not overwhelming. It's not simple, but or it's not simplistic. It's simple without being simplistic, which to me is very important, because simple is cool, simplistic is annoying. So but everything's clearly marked. You can see where the rivers are, the different terrain. But of course, you know, this is Ukraine, so you expect to see a lot of wide open spaces like this. Lots of good panzer ground, if you will. Okay, so that's cool. But again, you know, to hear that, that's pretty sturdy paper. You know, that's not El Cheapo paper. This, by the way, they do their printing through Blue Panther Games, because that's what it said on top of my box there, and that's where my shipping notice came from too. Okay, let's see what we got here also. All right, we have a card here. Let me try and zoom in a little bit because that's kind of small. So we have a card here, turns and replacements. We got our terrain effects chart here. So there are roads and railroads. There's both. So I'm assuming the dashed line is, but I haven't seen that yet. So I'm going to have to take a look and see where that is, because it wasn't on the map. Must be in the rule book, I guess. Counterattack table, which is different from the attack table, which, by the way, is on the back of the book, which I'm hoping to do, to print that off the internet, quite frankly, because that's a little small, and I'm, you know, eye-wise, I'm getting on in years, so to speak. But if you look down here, you got the different attack plans: meeting engagement, standard attack, grand assault, penetration. That's part of the reason why I bought this. Sorry, I guess I slid it down too far. It was zoomed in. There it is. But part of the reason I bought this was that it kind of intrigued me, the combat system, because it is a little bit lengthy. But again, we're talking about a game with 140 counters. Granted, when you put it all together, you're talking close to 500. But it also made me think, when I looked at the combat system, it felt kind of like a combination of, say, something like 30 Years' War, Europe in Agony, where there's like point losses, lost points that you have to fulfill. And then with the different kind of attacks, that kind of actually reminds me of Great Campaigns in the American Civil War. Which at first, you know, when you first learned that one, you know, having to spend movement points for types of attacks and stuff is kind of, it's a little bumpy, so to speak. Especially as I recall, I never ran into anything like that prior to that. But once I got the hang of it, it was very easy and quick. So I'll be curious to see how this combat system works. That's the most interesting part of the whole thing, at least to me. Alright, let's see what we got here. Okay, oh, this is the status pad. Now, this game uses one of two things. You either can have the status pad, or you can use loss counters on it. So it's basically up to you whether you want to use it. You see the boxes there and stuff. Kind of think of how do I want to put it? Oh, what am I thinking of? Oh, the Fleet series. Remember the Fleet series with all the ammunition boxes and stuff? That's what this is kind of like. So you can do it this way by marking off the boxes for losses, or you can, if you want, and I did, you can pick up these counters which do the same thing with the different numbers, and you just put them underneath the units, depending on, you know, what you're interested in, I guess. I'm not really good with the paper and pencil, but there's two sides to this. Here's the German side, and of course notice the counters are very colorful, so that's very cool too. Easy to identify who's who, and then even who's which nationality once you figure out the color scheme, so that'll be awesome. Okay, and then the last thing here appears to be just one counter sheet, which makes sense. It's only 140 counters. So here's the counter sheet, and this is the thicker ones, like the, I believe they're called laser cut, which is cool. I like that. Okay, and you can see again the color schemes are very cool. Got the game turn down there. You got the plans. Let me come out just a little bit. There we go. Got the plans too that you would choose as the attacker and defender. You could choose a counterattack plan ahead of time if you got mechanized forces. Can't if you don't. But then you're committed to it, so you have to be careful, because after the initial onslaught, if you get your dupa handed to you, then you're going to be like, holy smoke, I got to attack now with these odds. Okay, which, you know, it's the nature of the beast. There's reaction movement in this too. Units with Here, let's look up here at, here we go. Like these top ones here, these German Panzer divisions, you can see the numbers in white. They have zones of influence, which means they can react. And units become either fresh or spent, depending on things. So again, it's a little bit different approach to an Eastern Front game, but I'm very intrigued. And again, I went off the deep end and bought all three because once I read the rules, and I was like, rule book seemed cool, plus 140 counters in each one, plus put them together and you got 500 hokey spoons. Now, of course, the only thing that it'd be interesting to see what happens is going to be when you connect all three of these together. It's going to be pretty lengthy on the table, but I guess you could do it this way. With my table is about 4 feet wide and it's about 7 feet long, the big one. I got smaller tables too, but I bet if I linked it all together, it would work out. So, that's what's inside the box from Army Group South, which I'm going to assume that obviously Center and North are basically, in essence, the same thing. I won't bore you by opening up another one and going through it again. So, I'm going to start working on this. I'm not sure when I'll get back to y'all on this. Again, it probably depends on how quickly I get it down pat. I might also wait to do a video on one of them to see, which one, after I play all three, just to see how they all play for the different areas. Because, let's face it, the different regions had different, had different requirements and different situations and stuff. The fact that Army Group South did not have as many Panzers as Center, and I think North had even more, if I remember correctly. I love the Eastern Front, but I'm not going to pretend to be like a major guru expert on it because I'm not. I enjoy it. I've studied it for years, but I would never claim to be, a super expert. So basically, most of my statements, you probably noticed it, is I've seen this or to my knowledge or what I read this here. I try to reference and source things because right now there's if you like interesting Eastern Front threads, there's a what's the word I should use? Lively. There's a good euphemism. There's a lively thread. Well, it's not really a euphemism. It's lively. There's a lively thread that's getting a little sporty on Board Game Geek, where there's a review of the Dark Valley, Ted Ray Sears game, which I liked in principle, but just too many counters. I'm getting to the age where I just don't want that many counters anymore. Which I can't wait for Absolute War to come out from GMT. It's already like No Retreat, the Russian Front. But anyway, in the meantime, this of course will satiate my appetite and hopefully be a good way of looking at things. Because I do like using the different games sometimes to look at it from different perspectives. Using this game is very different from playing the Barbarossa campaign or Russia Besieged or I'm trying to think of another game I really enjoy a lot on the Eastern Front. Or like Moscow 41, which I can't wait till Kiev 41 comes out because, again, I've been kind of really focused on Army Group South over the last year. I read a couple of books, which are hard to find, by the way, on it. And the First Day on the Eastern Front book has been interesting about that, too, written by Craig Luther, who also did the Barbarossa Army Group Center 1 volume, which is fabulous. If you're looking at it, curious about from the German perspective and from start to finish, and by that I mean, when the Soviets counterattacked, that's a fantastic book to read. Absolutely phenomenal. That's been awesome. So, okay. I like having my mind blown by history. I had my mind blown. I started reading the real German war plan, and within the first, 20 pages, I've already got several things that blew my mind in that book. There was no Schlieffen Plan is what the author's arguing. What? And then the author's also like, the Germans didn't attack before 1907 or 08 because the famous French 75mm gun would have kicked their butt. They'd have got their dupas handed to them. And I've never heard that before, so that was interesting. I was like, what? So, there's been a couple of those moments already, so which is good. It's good to have your mind blown and have people challenge you. And then, look at things, look at their sources, and make your own choices and stuff. So, this author makes it easy, too, because he has endnotes at the end of each chapter, so you can right away flip and be like, where is that note? Oh, this is where it came from. So, anyway, so there you go. There's the Ungrouping Army Group South, and I do have all three, and I'll gradually be sharing this with you probably over the next month or so, as I ping pong between, you know, this and other projects I have that I've mentioned to y'all, and I'm not going to go over them again because I don't want to be building up any anticipation for them. Okay, so once again, this is Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming saying thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And I'm not even going to try to guess where I'll see you from, but you might want to lay your money here on von Rundstedt and the drive on Kiev, and more importantly, Rostov. Alright, as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.